I'd like to welcome everybody today on this 18th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on our country. 18 years ago today, we were, as Americans, subjected to unspeakable horror that took place on the southern tip of Manhattan and elsewhere, while the world watched and our fellow Americans watched. And I think in the spot that we stand here now, it's all the more poignant because while the rest of the world watched and while fellow Americans all over the country watched, we could actually physically see the smoke rising from the rubble from this very spot. And it was very personal for many of us because so many people had loved ones that we weren't sure if they would make it out, we weren't making contact and all those things. And we always have to remember that because although the effort was on behalf of those that wanted to destroy us, all it did was strengthen our resolve, bring us together, and create a stronger bond between everybody as fellow Americans. Whether we agree on things or not, this solidified and resolved us. It gave us resolve. And I think a testament to that is the new Freedom Tower. So if you look at the World Trade Center as it was 1,368 feet. The new Freedom Tower with the spire design is 1,776 feet, or 1776. And this is important to note because just like our first Continental Congress did in 1776 and formally severed ties with the Crown in defiance of tyranny, now the new Freedom Tower is 1,776 feet tall in defiance of anybody who would say that we cannot live as Americans the way we want to live. We are not allowed to love the people we want to love, and life goes on. So now I would like to call up the pipes and drums of the Police Emerald Side of Westchester County, led by Assistant Bandmaster Captain Patrick McCormick. Our Yonkers Police Color Guard, led by Lieutenant Richard Alamo. I'd like now, all of us together as Americans, to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are now going to have the national anthem sung by Amanda Gentile. Amanda is the 2019 Yonkers Junior Idol, chosen in a citywide competition. She is a lifelong Yonkers resident. She also is currently at Maria Regina High School. Some prominent alums are Yonkers First Lady, Mary Calvi. So Amanda, please lead us with the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets are there, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Beautiful. For the invocation, I would like to bring up Reverend Adai Francis, the pastor of the Yonkers Assyrian Church of the East, for the invocation.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. On this day, 18 years ago, a very tragic event took place. Innocent lives were lost due to an act of hatred. We give thanks and remembrance to all the heroes who risked their lives in order to save others. Every year on this day, we remember the fear that was brought down upon this country, that we will not ever dare to wish on anyone. We remember and pray for our loved ones that were wrongfully taken from us. We remember them and pray that they are in a better place with God up above. Dear God, give us the strength and courage to transform the compassion of our hearts into acts of peace, mercy, and justice. Another year passes, yet that will not stop us from spreading peace and remembering the lives of the people that should have continued on. Our God, we ask you to keep blessing our country and to protect it from any evil, now and all times and forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Francis. We have, please be seated. We have many dignitaries here. I would ask you to hold your applause until all the list is read. These are the people that allow us to, first responders in particular, to do their jobs and continue to protect the country and continue to be vigilant. And I want to thank each and every one of them. We have, obviously, the Honorable Mayor Mike Spano. We have, from the County Executive's Office, Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins. We have the Honorable Andrea Stewart Cousins, New York State Senator and Majority Leader. We have the Honorable Mike Hader, our Council President. We have the Honorable Shanae Williams, Council Member of District 1. We have the Honorable Corazon Pineda from District 2. The Honorable Michael Sabatino, Majority Leader and Council Member from District 3. We have the Honorable John Rubo from Minority Leader and Council District 5. We also have Judge Anthony Scarpino, our Westchester County District Attorney. We have President of Local 456, Louis Picani. We have Deputy Commissioner Steve Sansone from the Yonkers Parks and Recreation Department. We have Louis Navarro, Veterans Director of Veterans Affairs and a veteran. We have Kelly Chiarella from the Office of Aging. And from the YPD, we also have Deputy Chief Joe Monaco and Deputy Chief Sapienza. I would like now to call up the Honorable Mike Spano for his remarks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. Now, I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm thinking about all the years that we've been here. Try to imagine that 18 years has passed since September 11, 2001. You think about the fact that so many people in America today were either too young or not even born. So 25% of Americans, imagine, either too young or not even born yet to remember the events that unfolded that day. So now it's a history lesson for many of them. They will not know the world as we knew it prior to 9/11. You know, we all know it wasn't a perfect world. That's why we gather here today. We gather here today, and we'll continue to gather here each and every year at this memorial with the New York City skyline in our back. And we're here to preserve the memories of those who are lost in New York, those who are lost in Washington, D.C. and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We're also here to remember those who gave their lives in the battlefields of Afghanistan, Iraq, and some other faraway place. And those survivors, the first responders, so many of them, 18 years later, who continue to suffer from the lingering health effects of what happened at Ground Zero. And we're here to remember the moments, however painful, of September 11, 2001. And we need to share them. It's incumbent upon us, each and every one of us, to share with the younger generation those moments so that they don't view it just as another page in the history books. We have to remind them of what we saw, the images of the planes that were striking the World Trade Center, those iconic towers collapsing. You all remember. I know how I remember. I know exactly where I was sitting, holding my 2-week-old baby girl, watching that unfold. The smoke, the fire, the thousands of people who are running for their lives away from those towers, and remembering the heroes who ran the other direction, who ran in to save lives. Those images are permanently ingrained in all of our hearts and minds as we watch those events unfold that day. Those who stood right here along the waterfront. And think about this. Those who sit here in the waterfront, maybe just enjoying the view on a day that was somewhat more crisp than today, but watching Flight 11 pass right overhead, and saying, God, that plane is oddly low, not realizing that the people on that plane were frantic and about to lose their lives, and the world would change forever. Those who gathered at the top of the hills and watched the smoke billow out of Manhattan, some 18 miles away. My father standing right in the double yellow line on Park Avenue as he watched the towers come down. We will never forget the 2,977 victims who were killed that day. Since then, there have been another 2,000 victims that died as a result of what happened. Among them were 26 of our very own Yonkers families. And I'll just mention a few of them because we should. A recent college graduate who was so excited because he got to work in his finance office alongside his father. And an Irish immigrant who was a father of 2 and they were expecting their 3rd child. A young man who was married exactly 1 month. An information analyst who took pride in renovating his home in the Lawrence Park West section of Yonkers. A young woman, I'll remember her, who as an EMT was killed while responding to the scene. 3 New York City firefighters who lived in Yonkers who ran in when anybody else would run out. A 29-year-old pregnant woman with her first child, and a Yonkers native who served our country as a congressional affairs officer at the Pentagon. All those stories remind us of the bravery and sacrifices of our first responders. And one real compelling story, one that we should never forget, because it really strikes at the dedication and the service of those first responders. One of the Yonkers victims, who was found in the rubble alongside the South Tower, alongside 5 firefighters. This victim was wearing a pair of firefighter gloves, and he was wearing the firefighters' protective gear. We all know that those firefighters gave their lives to try and save his that day. So Yonkers firefighters, Yonkers police officers, EMS workers, tradesmen, steel workers, just ordinary people, everyone felt they need to go down there and to be helpful, to try and save lives. Some 70,000 first responders went to the pilot. But there were people, even here, every one of us knew people who that day thought they needed to do something. What was going to be, what would it be that I would give it? You know, would it be, my wife just had surgery, giving birth to our little girl, saying, I have to go to work today. She was supposed to be off for 3 months. I have to go to work. I went to work that day. Other people that I saw walking in the streets, putting on uniforms, saying to me, I don't know what it is I'm going to do, but I need to do something. That's what happened that day. We saw the worst that humanity could show us, but we saw the best of America that day. Because people come out. You know what? Do what they needed to do to protect us. Commissioner White always on down than ever. Yeah, it was unthinkable, but we survived. And we remember those who we've lost, and we continue to remind young people of what happened that day so that they never repeat that. But also, never forget the true American spirit. What keeps us together, all the different nationalities, this wonderful melting pot that we all live in. Our melting pot, our differences, our diversity, it makes us who we are. It gives us strength. It makes us that much stronger. And the reason, frankly, the rest of the world wants to be like us, and the rest of the world can't beat us. So our mission is now more important than ever. So we need to continue to fight for a safer world, the world that we want to. And I know we can do that because we are great here in Yonkers. We truly are great Americans. America is a country with tremendous ideas. And we don't always, let's call it right, we don't always live up to those ideas, but we aspire to be that. Let us never forget that. Despite our differences, race, religion, politics, we are one. We are one Yonkers, we are one New York, we are one America. And out of the ashes of what we saw at Ground Zero, we are one United States of America. God bless you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I invite up Senator Andrew Stewart Cousins, I'd like to take a moment of silence when American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower at World Trade Center. So let us just bow our heads for a moment and reflect. Thank you. Senator?
morning. And it is a good morning when we can assemble together in this great city in remembrance of the tragic event of September 11th, 2001. Thank you, Mayor, for those reflections. It is hard not to remember on this day, if you were anywhere, where exactly you were. I remember I was going into a conference about hunger, defeating hunger in White Plains. I remember it was a primary day. I was on the ballot. My mother, who was at the polls, had to pack up. I remember the terror, the uncertainty. It was the day that my daughter-in-law was supposed to go to the World Trade Center, but her train was late. It was a day where my daughter was at FIT, and they had to walk up those long streets out of what they thought would be harm's way. And every time I have an opportunity, which has been every year since, to reflect on this day, I cannot stop thinking about the what ifs. What if she had taken the train? What if my daughter was at, what if? And every single person, almost 3,000 that died in that day, just going to work, just doing what they were doing. And the first responders who knew they were going to probably lose their lives and still rushing in. And the volunteers who, from that moment on, found the best of who they were and decided that whatever was necessary we would do. What the mayor said is right. It's absolutely the worst and the best. And when I think today, I think about our realities. We still have a democratic society. We still vote. And those who can must. We still have hunger. We have to find a way to feed so many because we have so much. The reality is that we still have hatred because that's what that was. That was hatred that manifested itself in this tragic event that we still live with today. In so many ways, people who are still suffering. But we also still have the ability to love. We still have the spirit, our American spirit, that says we can do anything and we can do it right, and we can do it so that we can be an example for every nation on this planet. We have the ability to love. On 9/11, we reflect, and I'm very, very happy that the legislature has passed and the governor will sign it today, a bill that will have a moment of silence in schools on 9/11, so that those people who, yes, weren't here, couldn't remember, will have the opportunity to be taught about what this day means. The symbolism, the reality, the fear, the hatred, the love, the spirit, and the remembrance that we, each and every one of us, wherever we are, can make a positive difference in this world. That's why today we volunteer. That's why every day we don't live in fear. We live in the hope for a better world. Thank you so much for always remembering.
Thank you you, Senator. I would now like to introduce the Honorable Mike Cater, our Yonkers City Council President.
Thank you, Commissioner Mueller, Mayor Spano. On behalf of the entire council, many of whom are here, we are humbled and grateful to be here as we pay respect to over the 3,000 souls that lost their lives in the North and South Tower and that empty field in Shankville, Pennsylvania, and in Pentagon City. This morning, my daughter, I usually take her to school, and I said, Melania, I can't take you to school today. I have to do something with 9/11. And in her wisdom, she says, well, what are you going to say? And what I want to remind everyone, and it was echoed by our mayor and Senator Majority Leader, we must remember why 9/11 happened. There was evil in the world that did not like our American values. There was evil in the world that did not like our way of life. And I ask each and every single one of you, let's remember, after 9/11, we mourned together, but we also healed together. There was a camaraderie amongst us as Americans, as neighbors, as friends. And we must always remember that and reflect on that common bond. I say it many times, we have more in common than we have in difference. We should always remember, we should always serve. This is a difficult time for me personally. 9/11 inspired me to join the Central Intelligence Agency, where I left my family and friends in the city of Yonkers. Many people don't know, 8 days later after 9/11, the Central Intelligence Agency, along with JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, landed in a remote mountain in Afghanistan. We have one of the best militaries in this world. A strong military, a strong intelligence apparatus is the only way that we could guarantee our freedoms and our way of life. This is important to know. It's easy to, especially in this political climate that we live in today, we focus on our differences, but let's reflect back on what caused 9/11. It was because we are a great nation, and many nations can't be the way we are, as the mayor echoed. On behalf of the entire city council, we thank you for being here. We remember the lost souls. God bless each and every single one of you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. I'd now like to bring up the Honorable Judge Anthony Scarpino for his comments, our Westchester County District Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Spano, for putting on this program. Commissioner, welcome to the job, and the wonderful speakers we've had. Senator, just when you listen to all that we hear, we all sound like it's hard to come up and talk after you have some wonderful speakers expressing their personal views of what has happened and how it's affected their life. But with this river behind me, this river is something that I used to come to when I was younger, traveling a far distance from Mount Vernon to a foreign land called Yonkers. But you look at the majesty of it, and it's a symbol of strength and resilience. It built our region into the beacon that it is in the world, from freedom to commerce, from justice to education. So I stand here with you to remember how we became a target on September 11th, 2001, by those who would strip us of our freedom, our belief in justice, and indeed our way of life. 18 years ago, we vowed as a nation to be resilient in the face of terror and to never forget the lessons of that day or the lives lost here in New York or elsewhere. Like many of you, I was not in Manhattan on that day, but of course I can remember where I was and what I was doing as I heard the reports of the planes crashing and the towers tumbling, buildings full of lives whose day began like any other day in September. reflect a day like today, many of us yesterday reviewing the waning of the summer, the beginning of a new school year, a workday filled with new projects and a focus on the future. And of course, we remember the devastation that followed, the lives lost and the lives which continue to be lost or damaged from working in search and rescue efforts in Lower Manhattan. Just as America was vowing to fight terrorism, I recall personally reaffirming my commitment to the Commission of Justice. I was serving as a trial judge, and I called upon my colleagues in the judiciary to stick to our planned court schedule, to show our commitment that a just system must continue, even in the face of terror. So we're here today because those who were killed are not just names etched on memorials. They are our family members, our colleagues, our friends, our fellow classmates, or community acquaintances. We honor them with our presence, and we still share a collective pain. A couple of days after the events that occurred, it was my daughter, my eldest daughter, Jessica. She was at the University of Delaware. It was her first year there. She was a freshman. And it was supposed to be Parents' Weekend. And we remember driving down to Delaware on the Jersey side on the thruway. And all of a sudden, the traffic came to almost a stop. And now, you know New Yorkers and people from New Jersey, that happens. All of a sudden, there's going to be a symphony of horns blaring. But it was eerily quiet. Not a single horn blew. And as we approached a certain corner and we looked across, we could see the location. We could see what used to be there, the World Trade Center. We could see activity going on. We could see clouds. And everybody stopped for a second and looked, and nobody honked. It was very moving, very unusual. And then everyone proceeded on. I'll never forget that. So today, let us gather our strength from that pain and find a way to make all of those lives lost count by standing together, by doing what is right and good, because, as we all say, we must never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Before we continue with the program, I see a couple other dignitaries that came in. I see Councilman Anthony Moranti. I see Superintendent Quezada. I see School Board Reverend Steve Lopez, Deputy Mayor Jim Kavanaugh, and from Elliot Engel's office, representing him is Remy. I'd like to now bring up the Honorable Shanae Williams. This is her district. This is her area.
Good morning. Beautiful day out, September, right? On behalf of the residents of the First District, I bring you greetings. And I'd also like to pay special tribute to all the victims who lost their lives on September 11, 2001. Last year, I stood before you and I told you my story about where I was when this happened, that I was at Mark Twain Middle School. I was probably 12 years old at the time. And there are children today in middle school who may never truly understand just how devastating this attack was. No child should ever have to experience such evil. But after 9/11, we became a stronger, more secured, and more unified country. And regardless of where we are today with politics, we are still a strong, secured, and unified country. What happened on 9/11 was hateful, and it was tragic. But it is a part of our history, as you've heard the mayor and the senator and everyone else before me said. We will never forget all the innocent lives taken by these terrorists. And we will never forget the brave heroes who gave their lives for their fellow Americans and visitors. To the families and friends who lost someone, and to all the survivors, just know that we feel your pain, and we will always remember your loved ones through you and your story. It is so important that we continue to have memorials such as this, because as the mayor said, there's about 25% of Americans today who will learn about this through their history books. But the history books, as great as they are, they cannot compare to your story. History cannot repeat itself if we do everything we can to avoid it. And we do so by speaking truth about what happened, by telling our stories and keeping our loved ones in our hearts and in our communities. As painful as these memories may be, especially for the survivors and those battling cancer today as a result of what happened, just know that we, the people, your fellow Americans, we stand with you and we support you. To all our heroes, our first responders, our volunteers, we appreciate you and we honor you for your bravery and your patriotism. There is real evil in this world, but it will not stop us from thriving as a nation, because there is a good God who will continue to guide and protect us and bless this city and this nation. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak, and may God bless us all.
Let's now take another moment of silence for at 9:03 a.m. United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower. Thank you. And now we move to the in memoriam section of the program. We're going to bring up Hope Hollinsworth Coxum, President of the Gold Star Mothers, and I see some members of our great, fantastic armed forces here. I'd like to give them all a hand for their service and protection of our country. We owe you a debt of gratitude that can never be repaid, and thank you. So in memorial, I'd like the members of the City Council to come up.
Michael A. Bacardi. Michelle Renee Brennan. Thomas R. Brennan. Alex F. Chacon.
Joan McConnell Cullinan. Kevin Joseph Frawley. John Patrick Gallagher. Kieran Gorman. My friend, Michael J. Lepore. White Donald Darcy. Christopher Duffy. Peter Gelinas. And William Joseph Wick.
James N. Papa George. Louis C. Revilla Meyer. Samuel R. Sowell Jr.
Vanessa Langer. Dennis F. Lavelle. Sean Patrick Talon. And Marianne Pallavi Serva.
Balsa Raju. Joanna Goodell. Timothy Matthew Welty.
Michael J. Lyons. Yamel Marino.
Murphy. Military servicemen from the city of Yonkers killed in the War on Terror. U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Anthony Ladman, 2004. U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant Anthony Calhoun, 2005. U.S. Marine Corps Lance Corporal John Malone, 2009. U.S. Army Private First Class Gifford D. Herb Jr., 2010. U.S. Army Sergeant Edward J. Frank II, 2011. And my son, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Courtney A. Hollinsworth, September 9, 2007.
I now call up Detective Sergeant Victoria Cusick of the Yonkers Police Department and Yonkers Fire Deputy Chief Daniel P. Flynn.
Yonkers Police Department, Police Officer Anthony Majori, 2014. Yonkers Police Department, Lieutenant Roy D. McLaughlin, 2015.
Yonkers Fire Assistant Chief Roger Vitolo, 2014. Yonkers Fire Lieutenant John Rodriguez, 2016. Fire Commissioner Peter Guyette, 2016. Firefighter Neil Tyndall, 2017.
Detail, present, on!
I'd like to now call up Rabbi Mendy Horowitz, please.
gather here today to remember, I brought something which is a symbol of remembrance in Judaism. 30 days before the new year, we sound the shofar, the ram's horn, which asks God to remind all our goodness and kindness and all those who are not here. The second message to that is also to remind us, to wake us up, and to give us a physical and spiritual awakening to do special things for those who are gone, and we have to do things for their memory and their soul. I will now sound the shofar.
Now I ask Reverend Melvina Carter to come up for the benediction. Melvina is a recently appointed diocese chaplain, and we are great to have her and her spiritual guidance to our family.
Let us pray. Holy and gracious God, we thank you for your glorious presence. We pause in this moment to thank you for this time of reflection on the great loss we suffered on 9/11, 18 years ago. And so it is by your grace that we gather to remember every family, every friend, every co-worker, and every first responder that lost their precious lives. Almighty God, we are comforted by the memories of the sacrifices of the men and women that we hold so near and dear to our hearts. We are strengthened by the compassion of this community this morning. We are so very grateful for the support of everyone here today. Bless those that participated in the solemn ceremony. Unite our hearts for service to humanity here in Yonkers and throughout this nation on this day of remembrance. Oh God, as we prepare to leave this sacred place, bless us all with a sense of duty to watch out for and care for one another. Grant us wisdom to live in peace and walk in love daily. Now may the God of hope continue to help us. May the Almighty God continue to preserve and protect us. May the hand of God continue to guide us. And may the love of God go with us and give us inner peace this day and forever. Amen.
There's a tradition we started when we first started this event, and remembering that Flight 11 went down and used this pathway in which to seek their target. Those ones we've lost. We will put flowers in the water. And I just ask that the majority leader, district attorney, of course, the council, and anyone who would like to participate in that, just right up over here. All people to water. Let's put flowers in the water in remembrance of those who lost their lives, and God bless them.
This concludes our ceremony. On behalf of the City of Yonkers and the Honorable Mayor Mike Spano, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. May God continue to bless our veterans, our first responders, and to continue to protect this great notion that is democracy in the United States. God bless.